Copyright. For years, artists and creatives have sounded the alarm about AI scraping their work without consent, and now that warning is becoming reality. In January, a New York Times lawsuit accused OpenAI of using its articles to train ChatGPT without permission. The lawsuit alleges that OpenAI took millions of copyrighted articles from major news outlets to enhance its language model. And it's not just journalists who are worried. Hollywood actors, musicians, and digital artists are all seeing their work repurposed by AI without consent. One of the most shocking examples. Just last month, reports surfaced that the French voice actors for Apex Legends were asked to train AI models that could eventually replace them. Imagine being paid once to record a voice set, only to be told that an AI would use your recordings to generate future dialogue, eliminating your job entirely. This is exactly what creators fear. AI companies using their work to create something that competes directly against them. And let's be real, businesses will always choose the cheaper option. If an AI can generate artwork, write scripts, compose music, or even mimic human voices, why would corporations continue paying real people? The more OpenAI and other companies push to make AI-generated content mainstream, the harder it will be for real creators to make a living. So, who's fighting back? Over 400 actors, musicians, and creative professionals signed a letter warning against OpenAI and Google's AI ambitions. Even major newspaper publishers, including those owned by Alden Global Capital, have spoken out against AI scraping. They argue that AI companies should be required to license content, just like the film, TV, and music industries do. But so far, OpenAI isn't backing down. The industry is fighting back. The entertainment industry is no stranger to technology disrupting the status quo. But this time the stakes are different. AI isn't just a tool. It's a direct competitor to human creativity. That's why so many industries are pushing back hard. Hollywood has been one of the most vocal opponents of AI-generated content. The Screen Actors Guild, SAG-AFTRA, has already negotiated protections against AI replacing actors, ensuring that studios must get permission before using an actor's likeness or voice. But that hasn't stopped companies from testing the waters. Warner Brothers recently faced backlash for exploring AI-generated background characters in its productions. Meanwhile, the music industry is in an all-out war against AI-generated songs. Universal Music Group, Sony, and Warner Music have all demanded that AI platforms stop scraping their artists' music to train AI models. In some cases, AI-generated songs have even gone viral, mimicking artists like Drake in The Weeknd without their consent. This isn't just about technology advancing. It's about whether artists will have any control over their own work, and it's not just entertainment. The news industry is also under attack. Several major newspapers, including the New York Daily News and the Chicago Tribune, have published scathing editorials against OpenAI, accusing the company of wanting a license to steal. They argue that if OpenAI gets its way, journalism could suffer as AI-generated news articles flood the internet, based on reporting from real journalists who were never compensated. But here's the problem. Legal battles take time. AI companies are moving fast and regulations can't keep up. By the time lawsuits are settled, AI will have already reshaped entire industries. That's why creators and companies alike are scrambling to protect their work now before it's too late. The hypocrisy of OpenAI. Here's where things get even more ironic. While OpenAI is fighting to use copyrighted work for free, it fiercely protects its own AI-generated content. If someone tried to copy OpenAI's technology or its AI-generated outputs, the company would take legal action. In other words, OpenAI wants to use other people's work without permission, but doesn't want anyone using its own without strict licensing. In fact, OpenAI has made efforts to prevent other AI models from training on its outputs. This means that while it argues that all publicly available content should be fair game for AI training, it draws the line at its own work. The double standard is glaring, and OpenAI isn't alone in this. Meta, Anthropic, and other AI giants all have different approaches when it comes to AI training data. While OpenAI is taking an aggressive stance on fair use, companies like Meta are exploring partnerships with media organizations to license content legally. The fact that even AI companies can't agree on how to handle copyrighted data shows just how complicated and messy this issue is. So why is OpenAI pushing so hard for this? Simple. Without copyrighted data, AI companies can't improve their models. The more high-quality human-made content they have access to, the better their AI performs. But rather than paying for that data, OpenAI wants a free pass to use it however it wants. And that's where the real danger lies. If OpenAI wins this fight, Other AI companies will follow suit. The legal precedent could reshape how copyright laws work in the digital age, tilting the balance of power even further in favor of big tech. This battle isn't just about OpenAI, it's about the future of creative work, intellectual property, and whether AI companies will be held accountable for how they train their models. And with governments still trying to catch up to the rapid growth of AI, the outcome is far from certain. OpenAI's response. Despite the backlash from creators, OpenAI insists that training AI on publicly available content falls under fair use. Their argument is simple. Humans learn by reading books, listening to music, and studying art. So why should AI be treated any differently? OpenAI and other AI firms claim that restricting AI training data would stifle innovation and slow down technological progress in the US, giving countries like China an advantage in the AI race. But there's a flaw in this reasoning. AI models don't learn the way humans do. They memorize, synthesize, and generate content based on patterns found in massive datasets. Unlike a human artist or writer who learns and develops their own style, AI models can directly replicate and remix existing content, often in ways that are indistinguishable from human-created work. This is exactly why major industries are concerned. A recent study by the MIT Technology Review found that AI-generated content trained on copyrighted materials can reproduce original works with startling accuracy. This isn't just theoretical, it's already happening. One example, the AI-generated song that mimicked Drake in The Weeknd. This track, created by an AI system, went viral before being removed due to copyright violations. But under OpenAI's proposed fair use interpretation, that removal wouldn't have been necessary because the AI would have been legally allowed to use their voices and musical styles. Even OpenAI's own ChatGPT has been caught replicating copyrighted materials. In the New York Times lawsuit, journalists found that ChatGPT could generate near verbatim copies of their articles, raising serious concerns about how much copyrighted data is embedded in these AI models. Yet OpenAI continues to argue that AI training is a necessary step toward progress. They claim that without access to large datasets, AI development will slow down, leaving the US vulnerable to competition from countries with looser copyright laws. But critics argue that this is a false dilemma. AI companies can still innovate without bypassing copyright protections. The real issue is whether they're willing to pay for the data they rely on. The legal and government debate. This battle isn't just happening in corporate boardrooms and newsrooms. It's now moving into the legal system. OpenAI and other AI firms have been lobbying the White House and Congress to support their copyright stance. Their goal to secure a legal ruling that AI training on copyrighted data qualifies as fair use, but the pushback is growing. In late 2024, a bipartisan group of US lawmakers introduced a bill aimed at regulating AI's use of copyrighted content. This bill, if passed, would require AI companies to obtain explicit permission before using copyrighted materials for training. It would also enforce transparency, forcing companies like OpenAI to disclose what data their models are trained on. The European Union is already moving faster on this front. Under the EU's AI Act, companies are required to prove they have the right to use the data they train on. This means that in Europe, AI firms can't just scrape copyrighted material without facing legal consequences. If the US follows suit, OpenAI's plan to use unrestricted copyrighted content could face serious hurdles. Even tech giants like Google and Meta are being cautious. Google, for instance, has begun partnering with media companies to legally license content for AI training. Meanwhile, Meta has introduced opt-out mechanisms for creators who don't want their content included in AI training datasets. OpenAI, however, is taking a more aggressive approach, pushing for broader, unrestricted access. So what happens next? If OpenAI wins, AI companies across the board will gain legal permission to scrape and train on copyrighted material. If OpenAI loses, expect more lawsuits and possibly new laws that redefine how copyright works in the age of AI. What this means for the future of creativity. This debate isn't just about corporations. It affects anyone who creates online. Whether you're an artist, a writer, a musician, a programmer, or even just someone who shares photos on social media, your work could be absorbed into an AI training dataset without your knowledge or consent. If OpenAI's copyright proposal is accepted, independent creators may have to change how they share their work to prevent AI from using it. Some artists have already started watermarking their work or moving their portfolios to password-protected platforms. Others are exploring cryptographic tools that block AI crawlers from accessing their content. But here's the bigger picture. If AI companies can legally use copyrighted material without permission, what does that mean for the future of human creativity? Will industries still invest in real artists, writers, and filmmakers? Or will AI-generated content dominate? We've already seen AI-generated books flood Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, creating a problem where human authors must compete with machine-written books. Similarly, AI-generated art is appearing in digital marketplaces, sometimes mimicking the exact styles of real artists. This is why many creators believe the battle over AI copyright is a defining moment for creative work in the digital era. If regulations aren't established now, the next decade could see massive shifts in how creative professionals earn a living. If you've made it this far, let us know what you think in the comment section below. For more interesting topics, make sure you watch the recommended video that you see on the screen right now. Thanks for watching.